The good old carburetor died on the automobile vine more than 20 years ago, but walk into any motorcycle showroom today and you'll see a few stragglers still sucking fuel the old-fashioned way through a good old set of carbies. Oh, look at these beauts. What replaced carburation was electronic fuel injection, and it's known for being more precise, having more consistent air-fuel ratios, producing less emissions, running smoother, makes more consistent power across a wider range than a carburetor. So, why are some of these modern-day motorcycles still sticking with some ancient tech? Do they know something we don't know? Is the carburetor coming back? We're gonna figure it out today. Let's go.
Big thanks to the Zebra for sponsoring today's video.
Please, Mr. Money was my father. Call me Esquire Money. You know, I love nothing more than saving that sweet, sweet scratch. And that's why I use the Zebra to compare insurance quotes for free, so I can use my massive moolah on this throne room. And just like how I don't pick favorites when I go to my 10,000 car garage, the Zebra doesn't pick favorites when it comes to insurance companies. You're their favorite. Kind of like how I'm my favorite. That's why the Zebra cares about finding the right option for you. And they could save you over $400 a year on car insurance, which means anyone can aspire to be me, Esquire Reginald S. Money. That's right, my middle initial is a $sign. So head on over to thezebra.com/bumper to compare quotes for free today.
Esquire Money, you are part of a larger universe. You just don't know it.
Who are you?
I'm Mr. Transparent, and I'd like to talk to you about joining my team.
I'm gonna be frank with you guys. No, the carburetor is gone for good in the automobile world, but maybe not for the reasons that you think. And more importantly, all of those reasons I listed above aren't as true as you might think. Now you can look at carbs like this, or even this, and you might think they're painfully complex feats of mechanical engineering, but really, they're quite simple. All they're looking to do is to pass air through a narrow tube in order to speed it up. This is called the Venturi effect, which in turn decreases the pressure inside, which is the Bernoulli principle. Couple that with a fuel reservoir of some kind, in this case we call it a float bowl, and a tube to connect that fuel to the incoming air, and as that air passes over the tube, fuel is going to get drawn up, mixing with the air, and get sucked into the combustion chamber where the spark plug does its thing, and kabang! Bang, baby! We get combustion. Pretty simple, right? And it has served the internal combustion engine for well over a century. Heck, the mighty Mustang was carbureted until 1986. You're probably thinking, that's still a long time ago. And it is, it's like 35 years ago. Don't ask me how I know that 1986 is 35 years ago. But there are some limitations with carburation. With carbs, there's no adjustability on the fly, so whatever rate of fuel delivery you set them at, it's static. And if you want a different rate for each cylinder, each of those cylinders will require its own carb. Even worse, changes in elevation affect that mixture as the air gets thinner and the carbs continue spraying the same amount of fuel, leading them to running too rich. So that means everyone should be using fuel injection, right? Well, actually, fuel injection isn't necessarily the best answer to every situation. But before we can go look into that, let's look at how it works. So a high pressure sealed system uses a fuel pump and an injector to inject a regulated amount of fuel into either the intake manifold or in a direct injection system straight into the combustion chamber. These injectors are designed with a particular flow rate. The 4 injectors for a 1998 Honda Civic Type R, they flow at 240 cc's a minute, while the 8 injectors a Dodge Hellcat requires a flow of 600 cc's a minute. So pulses from the ECU determine how often and how long the injectors spray for, as well as when, meaning you can time them to spray at the perfect moment in the combustion cycle, dousing the incoming air in a beautiful mist of combustion fuel. Misty, baby. And this provides several advantages. Mechanical fuel injection started with diesel engines way back in the 30s, and it first became available in gasoline engines in the early 50s. And it was favored for racing applications because it allowed for more intermediate immediate throttle response than with the carburetor, which needed to wait for the pressure differential to build before more fuel was added. And because today's fuel injection systems are electronic, these mixtures can be more precise across the entire rev range, where carburetors are always needing to compromise as they use a system of circuits and jets to add flow as you open the throttle more. Plus, injectors can deliver fuel to each individual cylinder, providing unique timing and ratios for every single one of those cylinders. For instance, to only squirt fuel right when it's about to be compressed and ignited, as opposed to a carb, which is always delivering fuel if the throttle is open. And because you can adjust for each cylinder, you can change the ratio to benefit cylinders that might run a little hotter, like the interior cylinders, or colder, like the outer ones. That's called tunability. Okay, so it seems pretty cut and dry, right? So why even make this video? Well, things aren't as simple as we made them seem. And carbs do have some advantages over fuel injection. First, the pressure differential and longer flow path of a carburetor actually atomizes gasoline better than spraying fuel through an orifice like a fuel injector. It takes time for gas to go from a liquid to a vapor. It has to be atomized and emulsified before it gets there. And with a carburetor, the longer the path the fuel has, it allows for more time for that to happen. You have better atomization, means a better mixture, it means a better combustion, which means more power. Or as James says, more power, baby. Now on top of that, it's often said that fuel injection will always make more power than a properly sized manifold and carb. And that is just simply not true. You can optimize both systems and they'll perform equally when it comes to making peak power. But EFI has a broader power band and has better cylinder-cylinder fuel distribution, since you can determine and deliver individual flow needs to each of those cylinders. Now typically, carbs are optimal only over a narrow range, about 1500 RPM at most, whereas EFI performs well over 2000 RPMs or more. And test after test shows that you can make as much power with a carb as you can fuel injection. And when you're talking about specific applications like drag racing, for example, when you're only looking to produce power at wide open throttle, that broader power band isn't as much as an advantage as in a road car. Now on top of that, even the efficiency that you get with fuel injection has its own drawbacks. There are some significant shortcomings when you're talking about everyday passenger vehicles. With direct injection, the fuel isn't washing past the valves on its way to the combustion chamber. Now that's great for flow, since it doesn't have to make its way around the valve to get where it's needed, but it's not great for atomization or longevity. Let me explain. With port fuel injection, the fuel hits the intake valve, which helps with atomization from both the impact and the heat, and then flows into the cylinder where it has the entire intake and compression stroke to atomize. With direct injection, fuel may still be spraying during the compression stroke, and that doesn't allow a lot of time for atomization, emulsification, or vaporization. What are the differences between those three? I don't know, let me know down below. I can't teach you everything. Also, if you didn't know this, fuel is actually a cleaner, specifically a solvent. In fact, one of the major components of gasoline, which is benzene, is the go-to solvent for chemists. And without fuel passing over the intake valves, the dirty air that comes with modern crankcase ventilation and emission systems like PCV valves and EGR systems, they allow for carbon and other crud to build up on top of the valves. And now you've got just dirty valves that are in need of a cleaning.
Oh, hey, it's me, Slappy Valve. Oh, hey, it's me. I'm Dirty Valve. Oh, well, that's cool. Maybe we could be friends. I don't know. Do you like a little dirty valve? I think I could like a dirty valve. Let me just...
Those are two characters we created here in B2B, Dirty Valve and Slappy Valve. Should we make a valve t-shirt? Let me know in the comments below. Now the process of cleaning the valve means smoking out your neighbors at best, or removing the head at worst, so they can be media blasted without getting any of that bad stuff into the engine. And the real kicker here is that the dirty valves mean that the benefits the manufacturers implemented direct injection for in the first place, that higher compression and better efficiency, largely disappear until the valves are clean again. So what do you get instead? Or you get some misfiring potentially, rough running, hard starting, and poor fuel economy. So now suddenly carbs don't seem all that bad, right? So what are the real reasons the carb has gone the way of MySpace? Well, it comes down to two C's. First is cleanliness in terms of emissions. The efficiency really doesn't boil down to fuel efficiency for the consumer here. Yes, fuel injection is more efficient when it comes to fuel use, but where it really comes into play is with regard to unburnt fuel, both in the atmosphere and in clogging up your catalytic converters. So catalytic converters convert toxic gases and pollutants into less harmful stuff by catalyzing, that means increasing, the reactions that break them down and trap them. But cats are not meant to deal with unburnt fuel getting dumped by a carb into the exhaust. They don't play nice with hydrocarbons, and EFI is just better about using what they take or taking what they're going to use than carbs. The second C is corn. Yeah, corn. More specifically, ethanol. Carbs do not like ethanol. As fuel ages, it turns to a varnish that coats and clogs all the surfaces and ports in a carburetor. Most importantly, the jets that deliver the fuel when you need it. Now that's always been a problem since ethanol-based fuels have been around. Our grandpas, they didn't have to worry about this. It's only currently when we started using corn in our fuel. Unless your fuel system is designed for ethanol blends, you're going to experience corrosion, seal degradation, and O-ring failure. And all of that means little pieces of not fuel floating around in your fuel, and that's a perfect recipe for a clogged carb. And it's not just amateur racers and mechanics like you and I who experience this. Oh no, even Ducati got it wrong with their plastic tanks reacting with ethanol and grenading their own fuel systems, and that was only a little over a decade ago. So why do we see a bunch of new motorcycles like this, still getting their fuel from a carb? Well, because they aren't as beholden to the efficiency regulations that would force them to upgrade their manufacturing and eat up the cost of using an electronic fuel injection system. As long as they can get away with it, they will. And since modern fuel systems can be built with ethanol in mind, they can happily chug away with their carburetors until the government tells them otherwise. The old government's gonna crack down. They're cracking down here in freaking Cali. Also, quick note, some of these motorcycles that I said are new motorcycles are really just really old motorcycles that are still being manufactured. So Yamaha makes a bike, Suzuki makes the DRZ 400, which still uses a carb. That bike's been around forever. Thank you, Sharks, for joining me today. There are two things you need to go fast: big power and lightweight. I've spent hours of research and development to bring you this. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of B2B. We appreciate you. If you guys want to see more content like this, let us know. Hit us down in the comments. That helps us out. Follow us here at Donut on Instagram at Donut Media. Follow me at Jeremiah Burton. Till next week. Bye for now. All right, Nick, we're done. You're not done, but I'm done. I'm going home to soak in a bath. I know. I gotta put this car back on. I just want everyone to know this thing dumped gas and I've been sniffing fumes the entire time. So if I mess something up, blame it on the fumes. Oh God, this thing reeks.